I am 88 years old, and I still walk without a cane. Not because I am special, but because one day I got tired of living in fear of breaking a bone. For a long time, every step, every rug, and every little irregularity in the floor felt like a threat. It was not always like that. There was a moment, many years ago now, when everything changed with a single sentence from the doctor. I remember that appointment perfectly. I sat in front of him like so many other times, expecting to hear the usual. For your age, you are quite well. But that time it was not like that. He looked at me seriously and explained that my bones were losing density, that my risk of osteoporosis and fractures was getting higher and higher. He talked to me about broken hips, about wrists snapped by a simple fall, about vertebrae that could collapse without warning. I left the appointment with the feeling that my body had turned to glass. I started walking more slowly, avoiding stairs, grabbing onto the furniture as I moved around the house. I stopped carrying bags. I stopped doing small repairs. I even stopped stretching my arms above my head for fear of losing my balance. I did not want to spend my last years afraid of tripping in the hallway of my own home, but that was exactly what I was doing. For a while I thought that was the only option: resign myself, move less, except that my bones were getting weaker and that the only thing I could do was wait for my body to decide when to break. Until one day, almost by accident, I came across something different. It was not a new pill, nor a surgery, nor a miraculous promise. It was a simple topical cream that almost nobody used, a product that few people talked about and that, nevertheless, ended up becoming an important part of my routine. I want something to be very clear from the beginning. That cream did not replace my doctor or my checkups or my treatments. It did not cure my risk of osteoporosis. It was not magic, but it did become one more tool within a complete change of habits. I began to take better care of my skin, to massage the areas that suffered the most, to pay attention to circulation, to movement, to the way I treated my own body every day. Today, I am going to tell you how I found that cream, what changes I made in my life, and what I learned about bones, movement, and daily care. It is not a magic recipe, but it can give you ideas to protect your body better at this stage, and above all, so that fear does not run your decisions. Before we begin, I would like to know how old you are and from which country you are listening to us. Write it in the comments so I will know who I am talking to. When I left that medical appointment, I felt that something inside me had broken, even though there was not yet any broken bone. The doctor had been clear, but kind. He explained that, with age, the bones lose density, that in my case, that loss was already evident, and that, if I was not careful, a silly fall could end in a serious fracture. He did not raise his voice, he did not try to scare me, but he managed to anyway. He talked to me about osteoporosis in simple words. He told me I could imagine my bones as a kind of sponge. When we are young, that sponge is compact, strong, full of material. As the years go by, if we do not take care of them, that sponge becomes more porous, with more holes and less strength. On the outside, it looks the same, but on the inside, it no longer supports the same weight or the same impact. That, he told me, was what my bones were like at that moment. He also explained that not all bones suffer in the same way. He talked to me about the hip, the wrist, the vertebrae in the spine. These are areas that bear a lot of weight, that take the impact when we fall, that support our body every day. When those bones become fragile, a simple fall in the bathroom, a slip in the kitchen, or a stumble in the street can end in a fracture that completely changes your life. I listened, and although I nodded, inside I could only think of one thing: fear. That fear started to follow me everywhere. Suddenly, every rug seemed a danger, and every step a threat. Before, I crossed the living room without thinking. After, I looked at the floor as if it were full of traps. I started leaning my hand on the walls, looking for the backs of chairs, avoiding moving when I was alone at home. It was not that my body had become useless from one day to the next, but my mind started treating it as if it were made of glass. Going upstairs, for example, became a test. Before, I did it without thinking. After, I would stand at the foot of the first step and calculate. What if I get dizzy? What if a knee fails? What if I trip? The same thing happened with the shopping bags. I'd always been the type to carry too much, out of pride. Suddenly, I would look at a bag and think of the pressure on my wrists, the weight on my hip, the strain on my spine. I stopped lifting things not because I could not, but because I was afraid of what might happen. The hardest part was understanding that this fear did not come only from the doctor's words, but also from what I was already seeing around me. I had friends my age, some a little older, others a little younger. People who had been strong all their lives, hardworking, active, independent. And suddenly, I started hearing the same stories over and over again. A fall in the shower, a slip on the wet street, a silly trip on the edge of a rug. Broken bones, hospital, surgery, months of rehabilitation. One of my friends fractured his hip trying to reach something in a cupboard. It was not a car accident, nor a fall from a great height. It was an everyday gesture, a small loss of balance, a hard hit against the floor. He was never the same. He walked with fear, with pain, depending on others for things he used to do by himself. Another friend broke a vertebra in his spine when he fell backwards on a chair that was not properly supported. What seemed like an anecdote ended up being the beginning of years of limitations. I began to realize that, at our age, a fracture is rarely just a fracture. It is a chain. First the blow, then the hospital, then the bed, the loss of muscle, the lack of movement, the dependence. Sometimes what breaks is not only the bone, but the trust in your own body. And when you lose that trust, you start giving things up without even noticing. For a while, I lived like that, as if my only mission were to avoid something breaking. I walked less, I moved less, I did less, and the less I did, the weaker I felt. That was when I understood something important. The doctor had given me necessary information, but what I had done with that fear was what was finishing the job of trapping me. At that moment, I understood that if I did nothing, it was not only that I might break a bone, my freedom could break as well. If you are waiting for a miracle cream, this video is not for you. I want to start this part with that sentence because it would be very easy to tell you a pretty story, make you believe that I found a magic bottle and that overnight my bones turned to steel. But that would not be true, and at our age, a lie weighs more than any knee pain. The truth is that the cream came at the end, not at the beginning. Before that, there were many things. There were doctors, there were tests, there were scares, and there were decisions. After that first appointment where they told me about fragile bones, I went through bone density checkups, blood tests, long conversations with specialists who explained what was happening in my body. It was not comfortable, nor quick, nor simple. But I understood something important. If I wanted to keep walking without fear, it was not enough to look for a product. I had to change my way of living. The first thing they told me was that bones are like a bank account that fills up for many years and that, sooner or later, starts to empty. If you do nothing, it empties faster. If you take care of it, it empties more slowly. That care is not based on a single gesture, but on several pillars. I began to see my body as a house that needed to be supported from several sides, not just one. One pillar was movement. They insisted that staying still out of fear of falling was one of the worst things I could do. My bones needed to feel weight, pressure, use. Walking, going up small steps, doing gentle exercises with supervision. Not to exhaust myself, but to remind my body that it still had work to do. Another pillar was food. For years I ate what there was, what was convenient, what I liked. From that moment on, I paid attention to things I used to ignore. The protein to maintain my muscles, the calcium that bones need, the fruits and vegetables that help everything work better. I did not change my life from one day to the next, but I started making more conscious decisions every time I sat at the table. There was also sunlight. I'd heard about the vitamin that is activated by the sun, but I had never given it importance. Then I understood that spending all day shut in, afraid to go out, did not help either. I started taking a few minutes of sun every day, carefully, at recommended times. I did not need to lie on a beach. It was enough to expose my skin for a while, sensibly. At some points, the doctor also talked about medication and supplements. I'm not going to go into detail because each case is different, and it is up to a professional to explain that. What is important is that I stopped being afraid of the word treatment. I understood that if the specialist considered a medicine or a supplement necessary, it was not a punishment, but one more tool to help my bones. And finally, there was something that almost nobody had talked to me about: local care, the skin, the circulation in the areas that suffer the most, knees, hips, lower back. That was where that topical cream that almost nobody knew about started to make sense. I did not see it as a miracle, but as a way to broaden my care. A daily massage, a help to make the area feel looser, warmer, more alive. A reminder that those parts of my body still deserved attention. The central idea I want to share with you is this: the cream did not prevent osteoporosis on its own, but it was an important piece in a set of decisions I made in time. No product works in a body that we have abandoned. On the other hand, when you start moving a little more, eating a little better, listening to your doctor, and caring for your skin and your circulation, each gesture adds up. The cream, in my case, was one of those gestures. First, I understood this, and only afterwards did the cream arrive. For many years, I ate whatever there was, whatever was convenient, whatever I liked. I did not think about protein or calcium or vitamins. At my age, you get used to telling yourself that it is already too late to change. But when I started hearing the word osteoporosis more often than I would have liked, I understood that what I put on my plate every day was also writing the future of my bones. The doctor explained something that, said like this, sounds very simple, but that I had never really taken seriously. He told me that bones are not something rigid and dead, but living tissue that is built up and broken down all the time. To stay strong, they need three basic things: calcium, vitamin D, and protein. Calcium is like the building material. Vitamin D helps that material reach the right place, and protein maintains the muscles that protect and move those bones. When he explained it to me that way, I realized that many times I myself had been leaving my bones without tools. Almost empty breakfasts, quick meals, light but not very nutritious dinners. I started making small changes. I did not become an expert, but I added foods with more calcium, such as dairy that suited me, leafy green vegetables, nuts in small amounts. I increased protein, not with big feasts, but by making sure that every meal had something to feed the muscle and not just my cravings. Vitamin D was another surprise. I had always heard it was important, but I did not connect it directly with the strength of my bones. I started taking a few minutes of sun every day, at sensible times, letting the light touch my skin. It did not take much, but it did require consistency. I felt that, for the first time in a long time, I was collaborating with my body instead of leaving it on its own. And that was when someone mentioned something that hardly anyone talked about when bones were being discussed: the skin. Everyone talked to me about what I ate, what I took, how I moved, but nobody had told me that the skin could also be part of the care. The skin is the barrier that protects everything we carry inside, but it is also a place where we can work from the outside in. They told me about a topical cream that contained ingredients designed to relieve the area, improve the local sensation, support the superficial circulation. No brand names, no impossible promises. Just one more tool. At first, I was skeptical. I thought that if the problem was inside the bone, putting something on the outside would not do much. Even so, I decided to try it as part of my routine. I was not expecting miracles, just to improve the areas that suffered the most, to give a little relief to my tired knees, my tense hips, my stiff back. The first time I applied it, I did it almost without faith. I put a small amount in my hands and spread it gently over the skin, giving a slow massage. I noticed the warmth, the texture, the time it forced me to dedicate to a part of my body that, until then, I only remembered when it hurt. As the days went by, I started associating that gesture with a moment of care. The cream not only contained ingredients that aimed to improve how the area felt, it also forced me to stop, to feel my joints, to stop ignoring my own body. I will not say that everything changed from one day to the next, because it was not like that. But I did start to notice small things: less stiffness when getting up, more sense of relief after the massage, a different awareness of my legs, my shoulders, my back. The cream was not repairing my bones, but it was helping the skin, the tissues, and the circulation around them to feel better. And that, together with better food and the vitamin D from the sun, formed a whole that was starting to make sense. Over time, I realized that I no longer saw the cream as a simple product that you apply and forget. It was part of a ritual. Preparing the skin, massaging the vulnerable areas, dedicating a few minutes to feeling the body and not just using it. That was when the cream stopped being just a product and became a habit. A small daily reminder that even as age advances, there are still gestures I can choose to feel a little better. Many people ask me exactly how I use the cream, as if there were some secret technique. The truth is that there is no mystery, but there is something that made a difference for me: the consistency and the attention I started to give my own body. At the beginning, I chose 3 areas that had always felt more vulnerable: my knees, my hips, and my lower back. These are the areas that suffer the most when we walk, when we get up from a chair, when we go up a step, or simply when we spend too much time sitting. Later, I also added my ankles, especially on days when they felt more overloaded. I chose the night as the main time to apply it, before going to sleep when the house was already quiet and I was not in a hurry. I sat on the bed or on a firm chair, put a small amount of cream in the palm of my hand, and warmed it by rubbing gently. Then I spread it over the skin in circular movements, without rushing. It was not a race, it was a massage. On my knees, I used upward strokes, as if I wanted to help the circulation go up. On my hips, I used open palms, gently surrounding the joint. On the lumbar area, I placed my hands firmly and drew slow circles, feeling how the skin and muscles gradually relaxed. Each application lasted a few minutes on each area. I did not count the time exactly, but I made sure not to do it in a hurry. The idea was for my body to feel that gesture as something important, not as a chore. There were days when I also used the cream after walking. If I had gone out for a longer walk, when I came back, I would take a moment to apply it on my knees and my back. It was a way of saying to my body, "Thank you for bringing me this far. Now I will take care of you." That little ritual helped me a lot to not see movement as a punishment, but as something that deserved to be rewarded. The first changes I noticed were subtle. Less stiffness when I got up in the morning, especially in my knees. Before, the first steps were clumsy, uncertain, as if I had to negotiate with my joints. Over time, those first steps became a little smoother. Not every discomfort disappeared, but the feeling of being completely stiff did ease. I also started to notice a pleasant warmth in the areas where I applied the cream, as if the skin were waking up. That warmth was not only physical, it was also psychological. It made me feel that I was doing something active for my well-being, that I was not just waiting for time to do its work. The area felt looser, less tense, and that gave me more confidence to move. One of the most important changes was not only physical, but mental. I started walking with less fear. When you know that every night you stop to take care of your joints, to check how they are, you feel more connected to your body. Instead of seeing it as an enemy that can break at any moment, I started to see it as a companion I could support. I want to highlight something that I think is essential. It did not happen from one day to the next. It took weeks, then months of consistency. There were days when I felt lazy, when I thought maybe it was not worth it. But every time I doubted, I remembered that bones and joints do not change because of a single gesture, but because of the sum of many small gestures repeated over time. The same habit that destroys the neglected routine can build when it becomes a routine of care. It is also important to say that I did not do any of this in secret. My doctor knew I was using a topical cream. I told him in one of the checkups. He told me that as long as I did not replace the prescribed treatment or abandon medical recommendations, there was no problem in using it as a complement, especially if it gave me relief and encouraged me to keep moving. That sentence reassured me. The cream did not replace anything, it just accompanied. Over time, I stopped looking at the bottle the way you look at any product. For me, it became a symbol. Every time I took it in my hands and sat down to massage my knees or my back, I was making a decision. The decision not to abandon my body, not to give in to fear, to do something concrete, however small, to take care of my bones and everything around them. The cream became a daily gesture of care for my bones and for myself. A reminder that even as age advances, I still have the ability to decide how I want to treat the body that supports me. I decided something from the beginning. I did not want to rely only on sensations. I could feel less stiffness, more confidence, more relief, but I also needed to look at the numbers, the reports, the opinion of someone who had spent years studying bones and not just living inside one. That is why I never abandoned medical follow-up. Every so often, my doctor would order a bone density scan. It is a simple test, a kind of special X-ray that measures bone density. The first time I had it done was the one that set off all the alarms. After that, that test became a kind of silent mirror. It did not speak, but it showed clearly whether what I was doing made sense or not. In addition to the bone density scan, we continued with periodic blood tests. They checked vitamin D levels, calcium, some markers that could show how my body was responding. I will not say that I waited for each result with joy. The truth is that there was always a bit of nerves. At my age, opening an envelope with results or listening to the doctor read them is like opening a letter that can change your plans. What we feared the most at the beginning was a rapid drop in bone density. The doctor had explained that at a certain age, it is normal to lose some, but that there are different speeds. One thing is a slow, expected decline, and another is a sharp fall that leaves you in a situation of extreme risk. That is why every time I went into his office, I looked at his face for a clue before he spoke. As time went by, we started to see something that, for many people, might seem small, but for me was huge. My bone density stopped, worsening at the rate we feared. In some areas, it stabilized. In others, the loss was slower than expected. I will not lie. I did not become a 20-year-old again. My bones remained those of an older man, but they did not crumble the way the first predictions suggested. There was even a checkup where the doctor, with a slight smile, told me that some values were a little better than expected. Not enough to celebrate victory, but enough to recognize that something was working. For others, it might have been a small piece of news. For me, it was like hearing that I had a little more time to keep moving in my own way. The most important thing was not only what the paper said, but what was happening in my daily life. Despite my age, I had not suffered any serious fracture. I had had stumbles, yes, clumsy moments, days of tiredness, but no fall that sent me to the hospital to put a bone back together. I kept going in and out of my house on my own 2 feet. I kept getting out of bed without needing someone to pull me up by the hand. I kept walking down the street carefully, but without panic. For me, that was the real result of medical follow-up. It was not just about numbers on a sheet, but about what those numbers allowed me to keep doing. Keeping my independence, avoiding a fracture that could leave me in bed for months, still being able to go to the bathroom without help, to make a coffee, to open the window in the morning. That is what I celebrated every time the doctor said that, at least for now, things were under control. And here, I need to be very honest with you. I cannot say it was only because of the cream. That would be a lie. It was because of everything. The daily movement, even if it was little, the slightly better food, the discipline to follow instructions, the medical checkups I did not skip, the sunlight, the small decisions I kept repeating every day. And yes, also because of that cream that almost nobody uses and that helped me not to give up, to keep caring for my body with my own hands. I learned that prevention does not show in a single day. It shows in the years you keep walking without breaking. It is not something you can measure only by how you feel one afternoon, but by the number of mornings when you can still get up by yourself. Every checkup, every test, every conversation with the doctor reminded me that I was not fighting against time, but walking with it, trying to help my bones hold up long enough for me to live, not just to last. Over the years, I have seen something that hurts me more than any diagnosis. It is not just osteoporosis, nor the doctor's words, nor the results of a test. It is the way many older people react when they hear that their bones are fragile. I do not speak from criticism. I speak from the sadness of seeing how, without realizing it, they collaborate with what they fear the most. I have friends who, as soon as they heard the word osteoporosis, almost completely stopped moving. One of them, whom I will call Anthony, had always been active. He walked every day, did the shopping, tended his little garden. But after the doctor warned him about the risk of fracture, he got so scared that he decided the safest thing was to do almost nothing. He stopped going out alone, avoided stairs, spent his afternoons sitting in front of the television. "At least this way I will not fall," he told me. At first, it seemed logical. Less movement, less risk of tripping. But over the months, I started to notice the change. His legs looked thinner, he got tired just from getting up from the sofa, he needed to grab onto furniture to go from one room to another. What had begun as a protective measure had turned into a trap. By not using his muscles or his bones, they grew even weaker. His fear of falling was pushing him straight toward what he most wanted to avoid. I have also seen the opposite case. People who, out of pride or exhaustion, stop listening to the doctor. They prescribe a treatment, recommend checkups, suggest changes in diet, but the answer is always the same. At this point, what does it matter? A friend of mine stopped his treatment on his own because he felt fine and did not want to keep taking anything. It was not immediate, but after a while he had a small fall, one of those that earlier would not have been more than a simple bruise. This time, it ended in a fracture that will be with him for the rest of his life. The sentence I hear the most, and that does the most damage, is this: "It is already too late for me." As if age completely erased the value of small gestures. As if, upon reaching a certain number of years, you no longer had the right to improve your situation even a little. I have seen people stop caring about what they eat, ignore the sun, forget their exercises, neglect even their skin and their joints because they feel it is no longer worth it. But the body, even old, keeps responding to what we do with it, for better or for worse. Inactivity is one of the most silent enemies of our bones. When we stop moving, muscles weaken, joints become stiff, balance is lost, every step becomes more uncertain, and then fear grows, and we move even less. It is a circle that gradually closes. The result is that in the end, a fall we could once have avoided becomes almost inevitable. There is also the neglect of the skin and of the body in general. There are those who think there is no point in moisturizing, massaging, looking at their own legs, their feet, their hands. "What for if I am already old?" they say. But that way of thinking makes the body feel even more abandoned. The skin becomes drier, the joints stiffer, the circulation poorer. And from that stiffness, clumsiness in movement is also born. In the middle of all that, the cream had a meaning for me that went beyond its ingredients. The cream, for me, was a daily reminder that I could still do something for myself. Every time I applied it, every time I massaged my knees or my back, I was sending myself a message: you are not giving up. You may not be able to control everything, but you can still cooperate with your body instead of leaving it on its own. We cannot control everything, that is true. We cannot erase age or completely change genetics or promise that we will never have a fall or a fracture. But we can stop collaborating with what destroys us. We can stop feeding inactivity with excuses. We can stop abandoning the body with the idea that it is no longer worth it. We can decide that while we are here, it is worth continuing to take care of ourselves, even if it is with small gestures. Osteoporosis is not fought only with prescriptions, but also with decisions. The decision to get up a bit more, to walk a few extra steps, to follow medical instructions even when they are annoying, to care about what you eat, to take a few minutes of sun, to apply a cream and massage your joints with respect. There are no absolute promises, but there is one truth I have seen again and again. When you stop treating yourself as if you were finished, your body responds in a way that, even at 80-something years of age, can still surprise you. If I had to choose a single word to describe what I felt when they told me about fragile bones, it would be this: fear. Fear of falling, fear of not being able to get up from the floor, fear of becoming a burden. At our age, fear is no longer the same as when we are young. When we are young, we fear the future. When we are older, we fear losing the little independence we have left. For a while, that fear ruled my every move. I looked at the floor more than the horizon. I calculated every step. I avoided places where I might trip, and what is worse, began to tell myself phrases that took away my strength. Be careful, you might break. Better not do it. Stay seated, it is safer. Without realizing it, I was talking to myself as if I were already defeated. But one day I understood something important. Fear is not always the enemy. Sometimes it is a messenger. It was warning me that I had to change things, not that I had to stop living. I could use that fear to hide or to get organized. And that is where a word appeared that, although it sounds boring, saved me. Discipline. I decided that instead of letting fear paralyze me, I would turn it into a reason to take better care of myself. I started with very simple daily routines, walking a little every day, even if it was inside the house, doing some gentle exercises for my legs and arms, carefully, supporting myself wherever necessary, checking how I felt afterwards instead of always imagining the worst before starting. I also set small goals, not big, impossible challenges, but modest, clear objectives. For example, staying on my feet a few more minutes every day, climbing one flight of stairs with support, walking to the corner and back. Goals that did not require me to be who I was decades ago, but the best possible version of who I am now. Every time I reached one of those goals, however small it was, I felt I recovered a piece of confidence. Conscious care became the axis of everything. I started to think of my body as something that needed attention on several levels. Movement to keep it active. Food, more carefully chosen, to give it what it needed. Medical checkup so as not to fool myself. And yes, also the cream as part of that daily ritual. Every time I applied the cream, it was like telling my body, I have not abandoned you. It was not just about easing a joint, it was a language my skin understood. With each massage, with every minute I dedicated to my knees, my hips, or my back, I was sending a silent message. You still matter to me. I am still going to do something for you. That feeling, simple as it may seem, had a very deep effect on my self-esteem. When we stop taking care of ourselves, it is not only the body that deteriorates, the image we have of ourselves also deteriorates. We start seeing ourselves as someone who is no longer worth the effort, as a nuisance, as a problem. On the other hand, when, even with limitations, we choose to care for ourselves, something straightens inside. You look in the mirror and you no longer see only wrinkles and fatigue. You see someone who is still fighting, who is still present. Taking care of yourself reinforces the feeling of dignity and control. Dignity, because it shows that you have not given up. Control, because it reminds you that, although you cannot choose everything, there are still decisions that depend on you. You cannot avoid growing older, but you can decide how you go through those years. You cannot completely erase the risk of a fall, but you can strengthen your legs, organize your home, follow the doctor's advice, watch what you eat, pay attention to what you feel. For me, that was the great emotional transformation. I stopped seeing care as a list of obligations and started seeing it as an act of respect toward myself. It stopped being, I have to do this, and became, I deserve to do this for myself. The cream, the walks, the more balanced food, the checkups, all of it was part of the same message. In the end, I understood that this story was never just about strong bones. Yes, bones matter because they support the body. But there's another structure that also needs support, the way we feel about our own life. What good is a body that holds up if inside we already feel defeated? That is why, when I talk about osteoporosis, I no longer think only of tests or medical terms. I think about how we want to live the time we have left. It is not just about strong bones, it is about feeling that your life still belongs to you. As long as you keep taking care of yourself, even with small gestures, you are saying, quietly but firmly, that you are still here, that you are still you, that your story is not over yet. If I were 60 years old again, I would not wait to feel pain before starting to take care of my bones. That is the sentence that comes back to my mind the most when I look back. At 60, I still felt strong. I walked fast. I went upstairs without thinking. I carried bags as if time were not passing. I believed osteoporosis was something that happened to other people, to those who were worse off, to those who already used a cane. And without realizing it, I let valuable years go by in which I could have done much more for myself. If I could go back to that age, the first thing I would do would be to move every day on purpose. I am not talking about heavy exercise or punishing the body, but about giving it work every day. Walking with a purpose, going up some steps, doing gentle strength exercises with supervision, caring for my balance. I would not wait until I was afraid of tripping to start training my legs. I would understand that every step I take at 60 is an investment for 80. I would also eat better from earlier on. I would not wait to hear the word osteoporosis before paying attention to protein, to calcium, to vitamins. I would put more real food on my plate, less fast food, less sugar that calms you for a while and then leaves you emptier than before. It is not about living on a diet. It is about understanding that every bite is another brick in the structure of the bones that will support me when my body is no longer so generous. Another thing I would certainly do is see the doctor regularly, without fear of what he might tell me. Sometimes we think that if no one looks inside us, we are fine. But the truth is that the problem does not disappear just because we close our eyes. I would get checkups, bone density scans when necessary, blood tests, not to become obsessed, but to know where I stand and what I can do in time. It is better to hear a warning at 60 than a sentence at 80. And something I would definitely start earlier would be small habits of local care. Massaging my knees after a long day, applying a cream to the areas that suffer the most, paying attention to how my back, my hips, my ankles feel. I would not wait to have daily stiffness before starting to care for the skin and tissues around my bones. Those minutes I now spend applying cream and massaging my joints could have been a gift I gave myself many years earlier. The cream in my story is not a lone heroine. It is not famous, almost nobody uses it, and I doubt it will ever appear in big advertisements. But for me, it was a symbol of something bigger, the decision not to give in to fragility. I could have thought that, at my age, it was no longer worth trying anything new. Instead, I decided to turn that bottle into a daily reminder that I still had a say in how my body aged. If I sum up everything we've talked about in this video, I could say it like this. First, I understood the fear, but I did not let it rule forever. Second, I accepted that my bones needed help from inside and outside, movement, food, sun, medical checkups. Third, I incorporated the topical cream as part of a care ritual, not as a magic trick. Fourth, I was consistent even when I did not see immediate results. Fifth, I stopped doing what many older people do without realizing it, giving up, staying still, abandoning their own body. Today, at 88 years old, I'm not invincible. I'm still an older man, with limitations, with good days and not so good days. But I still walk without a cane. I still go in and out of my house by my own choice. I still have the feeling that, within what is in my hands, I have done what I could to take care of my bones and my freedom. No matter how old you are today, there is still something you can do for your bones and for your freedom. It might be starting to walk a few minutes a day. It might be reviewing your diet. It might be making that doctor's appointment you have been putting off. It might be spending a few minutes each night massaging your knees, your back, your hips with a cream that helps you pay attention to your body. It is not about doing everything perfectly. It is about starting with something. Now I want to ask you, what habits do you already have to take care of your bones and your body? What scares you most about osteoporosis or falls? And what do you plan to do from today on, however small it may be, to protect your health and your independence? I would love for you to share it in the comments. Your experience can encourage others who are in the same situation and maybe still do not dare to take the first step. Thank you for staying with me until the end, for listening to the story of an older man who decided not to live only with fear, but also with discipline and hope. If this video has been useful to you, if it has made you think or reminded you of something you had forgotten, I invite you to share it, to subscribe, and to stay with us. As long as we keep taking a little care every day of our body and our mind, we still have a lot of living left.